DJ PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. All right, we were just talking about the Jazz, reaction to the Kessler deal. They can still be a playoff team. 50 wins, top 6. That seems like a much bigger ask than it seemed like 48 hours ago. But nonetheless, that's where we are. And we were just talking about these guys' ability to improve. And for Markkanen, you were talking about a lot of things he had to do. You know, play more games, score points, lead, and I just summed it up with he's got to lead him to the playoffs. You gave him co-lead. If he co-leads because somebody else steps up their game, and not only can we live with that, I think that's what we all want to see. Whether it's hard to lead when you're not one of the better players. So if whoever it is, if someone steps up their game and we look back and say, well, they had a couple of guys who really led them to the playoffs. Well, as long as you're there, I mean, I'm fine with that. Let's not mess up the development of somebody else who's ready to take a bigger role and step forward. And maybe it's a younger guy who's doing it way young and will just get us super excited about the next decade. Maybe it's Jackson, who's obviously the most accomplished guy on the roster. But whoever, I can live with that, PK, but when you're getting paid that much money, you're expected to carry a certain percentage of the load. And he's getting paid a lot of money, so he's expected to carry a lot of the load.
Oh, there's no question about that. But I don't think Jackson needs to step up his game. I believe he needs to do what he can do. He's the best player on the team right now, today. We'll see how that progresses during the course of the season. But he's an enormous talent. And he's, in my mind, he's better than Markkanen. And that's taking nothing away from Markkanen because he's got all sorts of skill. But I think Jackson right now, today, is the best player on the team. And the good thing about it is there is no clear, obvious number one option. If you want to be the number one option, if that's important to you, as apparently it was to Jaylen Brown, which I think that gets in the way sometimes of winning, and look at the result. You got shipped out of town. I'm not really so concerned about that. But do your thing and be a great teammate in a winning basketball concept and structure that you have going on. And so we'll see who is available to be the number one, or do they need that? Is it a team that is built around some highly skilled players and take advantage of those? Because if you can get that might be better than a clear number one. Because if that clear number one is just that, but in the ranking of the NBA, he's only in the top 20, top 25 of the league, you're probably not going to be very good. Now, if your clear number one is top 5, top 10, that's another story. And so I'm not sure I can put any of these guys in that category, but together, can they overcome the lack of a true big-time bona fide face of the league superstar? They have that possibility because they have a lot of individual guys that are very talented and they can come together collectively and they can beat you that way. And in the final analysis, that's what matters is, did you win? Not how many points Joe Blow scored or what have you, but did you win? We got to get past that. And I think you and I and Yak, we are past that. It's going to be, did you win last night? Did you win tonight? What's it going to be tomorrow night, and so forth? And so that's how they're going to be judged, by their record. And as a fan, that's exactly what I want. I want to see if they won or lost, and not buts, the point differential shows this or that, and whatever. I want, did you win? Your record is going to reflect. Who was it? You're judged by your record. Hasn't been multiple coaches have said that, particularly in the NFL. And sure, you can have injuries and all that stuff, and some guys get fired, and it's a head scratcher. Look no further than last year with Tom Thibodeau taking the team to the conference final for the first time in X amount of years, and he got fired. And it turned out, wow, they had hired Mike Brown, and I don't know if it was Mike Brown or whatever it was, but they won the title, and that's what everybody wants. So that's how they're going to be judged. And so maybe they do have 2 or 3 players that on a given night will be the man. And if they won, then it works.
I do think way more teams have won when they've had one of the top 5 or 10 players in the league.
I understand that. But if you don't have that, what are you going to do? You can't just throw in the towel and say, screw it, we don't have it.
Yes. And what happens is you can win with a collective to a certain level. And then as you start to win, whether it's the media or it's NBA players, talking, somebody gets elevated. And then someone like, well, they're winning a lot. We'd better give them a representative in the All-Star game. And so it gets created. Now, when you pull the collective apart, all of a sudden the star player can't do what he used to do. And you could pick any of the recent NBA champions, right? The best player gets elevated and gets discussed as one of the top 5 or 10 players, but then you find out they don't have that group, that collective around them, and now they're, whether it's Milwaukee or Denver or Toronto or whoever else, like Golden State, you can go on down the list, when they don't have the players around them, okay, Steph Curry's awesome, the Joker's awesome, but how far are you really going? So maybe there'll be a player who eventually gets the credit, but maybe they get too much credit, just like sometimes you get too much blame, because maybe the collective was more important all along. So don't get too hung up in that. Right now, you don't have anyone who's going to be identified as that. But if the group wins, somebody might get identified in that, even if it's oversold. So to your point, win with what you've got. That's what we really care about. That's what people care about when they walk into the Delta Center on any given night, or when they sit down and watch on TV, or they're driving up and down the road with Locke. Locke, give me the score. Are they winning? And Locke's breaking down whatever he's breaking down during the game. But it comes back to the winning. If you win, they'll enjoy however they did it. Whether it's a team that's leaning more on defense, which, with Kessler, that looks like it's going to be a little harder to do. Or leaning on offense, just get the W and then get the next one.
Sure. And those examples that you just gave, the team that you listed, they all won the title.
Yep.
And Denver didn't back it up. Milwaukee didn't back it up. But when you've never been there, let's get one, and then we'll worry about backing it up if you get that one. I mean, that's and Toronto you threw in there too. They got the one. And then go from there. None of those 3, the Warriors obviously backed it up, but the other 3 didn't. But hey, things happen. But at least you got the one. Nowitzki will be a hero forever in Dallas
got the one.
They got it.
How about Jalen?
They got it, man.
Jalen Brunson in New York. Maybe they back it up. Maybe they don't. But he got the one. He's on a very short list of little guys who are able to pull it off and win the whole thing. And did they do it with the collective? Legendary. Is he one of the top 5 or 10, or was it really about the collective? You can argue that stuff all day long, and meanwhile, they're getting a ticker tape parade. So, woohoo!
Well, I think what we'll see with Jalen Brunson, if he wants it, he will be his generation's Walt Frazier, who has been all these years revered in the New York area.
Yeah, and not just New York. We've seen him walk into the Jazz media room. When the Knicks are in town. I mean, he is – you can't help but take your eye – I mean, you got to look at him. You can't take your eyes off him. He's Walt freaking Frazier. Come on.
Oh, yeah, he was my guy as a kid.
Yeah.
He was – I'd go out in the playground and try to mimic Walt Frazier. He was the coolest thing ever at the time when I was 10 years old. And Brunson has that opportunity. Somebody here, did they have that? Remains to be seen. Let's see what they can do. That's and sure, on paper right now, they don't have one of the top 5, one of the top 10. All right. And those are the most precious guys to acquire and the hardest to acquire because they are so rare. Every team has a best player and a player who's making the most amount of money, which by the average person is an obscene amount of money, right? Darren Peterson is going to get $61 million guaranteed. AJ DeBonsa, I think the way that's structured is like 69. That is incredible amounts of money for someone who's never played. And I don't care if he's taxed out the yin yang. It's still an incredible amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so if you don't have that, well, what you have had these last few years has not been good. So get to that 45-win plateau and see how many games you have left. Can you get to that 50-win plateau? Where do you plateau Well, let's get there. Let's enjoy the ride of getting there. And then it's like a repeat of when they drafted the statues. They hadn't made the playoff for a number of years, and they throw Thurl in the mix, and away they go. And I wasn't here at the time, but I've spoken to so many people how exciting it was for that team to break through and then go from there. And let's break through, and then we'll see where do they go from there. But I want to enjoy the ride of getting to that breakthrough rather than be looking, oh, okay, they've plateaued, 47 wins, 48, 51, but they're out in the second round. I want to enjoy home playoff games in the Delta Center because we haven't had that. And then see, that's up to the management and up to the individuals and the coaching staff to make the team better from that point on. But let's enjoy the ride where they're from where they are right now to getting to that point. And maybe I'm looking at it from old man perspective, and I don't have as much more. I don't have 10 years in the business left, so I want to enjoy it right now.
Nope, I don't. I think that right now you are a man of the people. You are speaking for the upper bowl people you used to speak about, but quite frankly, I think you're speaking for the lower bowl people and the luxury box people as well. Jazz fans go there, even when they're tanking, and they want to see a win, and they want to have a good time. I think they'll enjoy the ride. There was a lot of griping outside the arena, but having been in the arena for a lot of games over the last 4 years, I can tell you there were a lot of people enjoying the ride. They didn't worry about the standings, no matter how much I told them about them the next morning. They just wanted to win that night, even if it was going to cost them a place in the draft lottery. And as it turned out, I only got Darren Peterson because they did lose that one extra game and tie Sacramento and win the coin flip and then end up number 2. So every loss mattered, and nonetheless, people were in there enjoying each individual win. And on the nights they lost, just enjoying the possibility of a win. So I think they will enjoy the ride. It's how a lot of people roll. You could see it and hear it. Here's another one for you.
They should.
There are also a lot of smart fans out there. Brad, who clearly watches the NBA. I always talk about, is this a Jazz town or an NBA town, right? Brad clearly watches everything. He says, center by committee for the Jazz this year. Well, that's the way the Celtics have made deep playoff runs and the way they've won championships. Brad, that is what we once had a producer refer to as a true fact. I don't know what other kind of facts there are, but it's a true fact. And then how about this one from Landon? The difference between Kessler and Hayes is roughly $27 million a year. As a Jazz man, I'm good with that. Can you get 60% of the money, 60 or 70% of the performance and only pay 20% of the money and then spend the rest of that money somewhere else to help the ball club? And not necessarily today, maybe midseason, maybe next summer when Keontae's up. Maybe another move will present itself. But when you can get 50, 60, 70% of the production for 20 or 30% of the money, hey, you're onto something.
And I think you have to do that in the world of the NBA. Yes. You have to have guys overachieve their contracts in order for you to be good. I don't know if Hayes can do that. I'd like to think so, but I'd rather be, when I make forecasts or predictions, I tend to be more conservative rather than going over the top. And I want to see how he fits in. I want to see what his mind's. Now I understand he put out some social media in terms of basically, I didn't see it, but I heard about it. Let's go. I'm ready to work, whatever it is. I mean, so far in the initial just hint of what his mindset is, it seems to be positive, because unless you're an idiot, okay, this is a pretty good situation to come in. They need your services. And if you ball out, you're going to be out on the floor, and then you're going to make more money. And you're going to be in an environment in which is winning, and winning. Everybody wants to win. Nobody wants to lose. It's just a fact. It doesn't matter what it is. And so I'm excited to see, but I don't know what he can give you. If he can give you that, as you were saying, that reduced cost and correlated to the level of production that he would get for Kessler, okay, remains to be seen. I get all that.
Jared's all about Nurkic. He averaged 11 points and 10 boards. That's what Kessler averaged the full year he played. I think it's about 6s. At least it's not worth $20 million more to keep Kessler. Yeah, but about the defensive end. Those stats don't capture both ends of the floor.
No.
We're on the same page there.
I mean, Nurkic can do what he can do.
Right.
Right. And he's 31, 32 years old. He's been in the league a long time. There's a place. He was blessed with an enormous body and he worked at his skill. And so he's had a place in the league now for a number of years. But let's not try to
overstate it.
Or in a sense, okay, I'm gonna rip Kessler and compare him to Nurkic just on raw stats. Don't do that.
I'm going to pump up my guy as long as he's my guy and then tear him down when he leaves. I think the thing with Nurkic is they look for combinations of players who play. I think the first thing we have to see is him playing alongside Jackson. I mean, that's playing him alongside anybody else, you start wondering about how small that team is and how much they're going to get attacked. Jackson's a 7-footer. He's a shot blocker. He doesn't necessarily need to go body up the biggest, toughest guy on the other team, right? There's some body types he's just not going to match up with. I do think Jackson can play some center. Let's see who the opponent is that night and what lineup they have on the floor at the time. So I think it's going to be center by committee and he'll be in the mix. But on any given night, you might be a little more, a little less excited about him playing a 5. It's not going to be a steady diet of that. Right.
What the matches are.
Every night and every quarter and right.
You spoke about somebody, I think you read a response there about how Boston did that. Well, I can argue that the Oklahoma City Thunder did that too. They weren't having a prolific big guy. And I also believe that Jackson all of a sudden didn't look at his phone and saw, oh my gosh, Kessler's gone and the team I'm on is getting the draft picks. I would have to believe there was some type of communication all along the way. Okay, Jaron, we're going to do this because this is what we're going to do with you. And how do you feel about that? And what are your thoughts on, okay, if we don't match because of, we got Count coming up, blah, 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 but we got you right now and you can help. Your versatility can really help us. I have to believe there was conversation along the way and there was some form of a sign-off on this by Jaren Jackson. Maybe I'm totally up in the night, but I'd have to think that Austin Ainge has been and Ryan Smith is usually there on the floor. You see pictures of him on the floor while players are working out around the periphery of the court. And there have been conversations to keep him abreast of what is going on because he's a valuable, critical piece. Underscore that 3 times because I think it's true. And so he's fully aware of what his role is going to be going into this season.
I think there was a ton of conversations there. And I think the reason people around the NBA have an idea because Austin isn't going to go out, nor is anybody else running a team, and say, hey, here's what we're thinking. So in that case, here's where you fit in. It works backwards. He starts talking to agents like, and once Nurkic got the deal, that was a much bigger red flag, and I should have made a big deal out of that. How much are they going to pay the center position? Once they gave Nurkic that much money, and then if somebody, if you're representing another player and you get contacted and your guy's going to be in the $6 million range, you could start figuring out, all this stuff about Kessler must be true because they just signed that guy, and now they're talking about this guy over here. People know they're putting feelers out, and everybody isn't given all the pieces of the puzzle, but sometimes you can figure it out, and conversations absolutely happen because they are working on a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. And I think one reason, because they've shortened these NBA contracts so much, it is hard to keep the championship together. It's not like people have forgotten how to do it. It's just there are now desperate teams that have cap room that will come in and overpay your second, third, fourth, fifth best player. You may be able to keep your star, but can you keep the talent around him? Because there's always somebody who's desperate. And we can talk about this with Ben at 9 o'clock. I just think there's clearly desperation in L.A. You're the GM hired by the previous owner. Now there's a new owner. You got to make sure your team's pretty good or you're going to be out in about 5 minutes. So he made the best deal possible. The pressure was on. The Jazz read that, and they got back potentially way more in the draft than we thought they would. To get 2 picks and the opportunity to flip 2 on top of that for a third and a fourth one, we'll see how it plays out. I don't think any of us were talking about getting that kind of haul for Kessler. But they got it. But there was pressure on the other guy. But there's always pressure on somebody in the league. They're always going to be trying to overpay and get some talent and get better. There's always somebody willing to do it. And they can pick apart Denver or Milwaukee or Utah or whoever. They're going to come for you.
Yeah, the thing
the
that I
Knicks.
like
Yeah.
is that I don't think this decimates the team, and it gives them more flexibility. And you need that. You've got to be able to be light on your feet, so to speak, in today's NBA world and pro sports world. I mean, at least in the ones aside from baseball until they get that salary cap. And so, with that in mind, too, they're not burying the future. When I hear that the Lakers don't control a pick and you start the first number is going to be 20, and that third number is a 3.
Yeah.
That makes me really weird. And I don't really care about the Lakers, but just it makes me nervous on the surface of any team that does that, because you can't. It's such a critical balancing act that you can't destroy the future for the present unless you are odds on overwhelming favorite to win it all. And if you win 2 or 3 titles, fine. But I don't see that. I don't think there's any guarantee on any. As we know, we've had 8 different ones here. And so with that in mind, that's scary. And the Jazz have put themselves in the position to win at least minimally at a decent level in the short term without sacrificing the flexibility and the possibility of being good down the line.
James says they should trade for Walker Kessler in the future because he's awesome. He'd be a great fit, and the Lakers are going to need to move him one day because they don't have any draft picks. They're going to have to flip Kessler for draft picks down the line.
Switch it right back. No. Well, if that's the case, then get Gobert back.
See? All right, DJ and PK, when we come back, you know who's making moves? The Jazz are making moves, and the Mammoth are making more of them and faster. They are switching things up. It was a busy day. It's been a very busy week. Greg Wyshynski, ESPN senior NHL writer, joins us next. Stay with us. DJ and PK, it's 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. We are joined now by Greg Wyshynski, ESPN senior NHL writer. Greg, welcome back to the show. Thanks for joining us again.
It's my pleasure. It's been an interesting 24 hours. I went into Bristol yesterday expecting to cover free agency, and it ended up being the trade deadline. So it was kind of crazy how that all worked out.
The Utah Mammoth are making a lot of moves, and it looks to me like they're trying to thread the needle here. It looks to me like the priority is we have a lot of good young prospects, and we think we can be really good 5, 6, 7 years down the line. And that seems like that's the top line priority. But I think they've assessed the minors, and they're like, we have too many prospects for the roster down the road. So as a second priority, we're going to be aggressive in trying to improve the team right now. And they moved a prospect yesterday to get a guy, and people, he's 32. Yeah, well, if that bugs you, guess what? He's going to be 33 later this month. But it looks like that. Do you think that they have enough prospects to accomplish both of these things? And I think that's still the order they're trying to accomplish them. But can they thread that needle and do both and make this team much better now, make it competitive, while still preserving the ability to be an excellent club 5, 6, 7 years down the road?
Yeah, I think the thing for me in talking to Bill Armstrong over the years is he knows how deep the pool is for prospects, and he's got an incredible deep pool. I mean, at one point in the last year, he had a top player, it's seemingly in every level of hockey, whether it's Canadian Junior or the NCAA or wherever. It's pretty remarkable. And so, the balance you have to strike is how many of those guys do you want to ante up in trades that make you better immediately, and how many do you want to hold on to as the next wave? I mean, obviously, like, for example, most of the league is hot to acquire T.J. Ginla, but that's a guy that I think the Utah Mammoth see as a central piece of everything they're building going forward, unless something really knocks their socks off. So Cole Baudouin, who sent over to the New York Rangers, is exactly the kind of prospect you'd expect to see them move right now. He's good. He's got size. He could end up being Vincent Trocheck, only bigger down the line in his career. But they can afford to move him for a guy that can help you right now. And like I wrote on ESPN in grading the trade, which I liked for Utah, like Trocheck does so many things for you that a team that fancies itself as a contender needs, and the cost of acquisition was solid for them.
All right, you used the word contender. Well, for the first couple years, it was contend for the playoff, and they achieved that. And then you listen to Bill talk, and he's talking about when they go up against Vegas, it was clear that they had an older, more experienced team. So go ahead and address that. And you list their prospects, and the one they gave up is on the list of prospects, but he's not at the top. You already listed the top player, and there's a couple other guys too. So with that in mind, when you use the word contender, are you talking about a contender for the final?
I mean, a conference final.
Okay.
Let's be incremental here. I mean, listen, the West is a really tough grind, but this is a team that made the playoffs. They pushed Vegas pretty well in that series, and they were able to identify, okay, the kids are great, and there'll be more of them. But now we have to kind of start surrounding them with some veterans that are not only good at what they do, but also exude leadership in situations that require it. So, Anders Lee was a captain. Vincent Trocheck was, without question, one of the biggest leaders on the Rangers in their locker room. I wrote a story about him a couple of years ago. He was the guy who would invite the entire team over to a big Italian dinner at his parents' place in Pittsburgh when they were on the road. Like, he's that kind of guy. And so not only do you have players that sacrifice on the ice and give it everything they have to win, but you also have players that are just quality individuals behind the scenes, bring a lot of leadership and bring a lot of veteran savvy, which is great in tough situations like a playoff series, but also great just as a model for the younger players to know how to carry themselves and know how to react to situations.
Do you see any potential missteps, or do you think they hit home runs, or is there a little problem out there, a little speed bump in the way?
My concern about the Trocheck deal, and I'll say this before I praise him, is he is older. He's going to turn 33 soon, and I also think that one of the drawbacks of trying to in acquiring him to fill a role in the middle of your lineup is that it doesn't address the reality of the Western Conference, which is that all of these teams have big centers, and centers that you've got to deal with, whether it's Thomas Hertl with the Golden Knights, whether it's Leon Draisaitl with the Oilers. Obviously we know McKinnon is built like a truck for Colorado. And so Trocheck's not a big guy. He plays big. He plays with a lot of tenacity and a lot of heart, but he's not a big guy. So from a acquisition kind of roster building standpoint, that was one of my concerns. But again, like the upside of Trocheck, assuming that he can kind of recapture a little bit of the offensive magic he lost on a pretty bad Rangers team last year, is that he's able to play a number of different roles. He could be your top line second line center. He can play the wing. He can kill penalties like we saw when he won the gold medal for Team USA in Italy. He can be on the power play. He's good on faceoffs. Like, there's just so many things that he brings to a lineup, and a diversity of skill and a comfortability playing different roles that I think makes him a great pickup, not only now, but towards the end of his contract.
How about the aside from these moves that they made here most recently, the move the other day of acquiring a goaltender in Sebastian Cossa? What do you think of that one?
Oh, I like it. Cossa's a guy who just never seemed to find traction within the Red Wings organization. He was always tagged as being a goalie of the future, and then despite having some pretty bad goaltending, they never really called upon him to be as such. And so, listen, Vejmelka obviously is the guy. He's earned this right. He's played extraordinarily well, and in some cases carried the Mammoth during stretches. But to have Cossa as the understudy, to have him kind of ease into this role, goalies are tough to figure, boys. It's not an exact science. It's not like in the NFL when you draft a quarterback and you're pretty sure after 2 years of holding the clipboard that they're going to be able to come in and play. Like, goalies kind of pop at different times, and sometimes a guy that's drafted to be your franchise guy when he's 21 doesn't really find that until he's 26 or 27. I mean, we just saw it with Brandon Bussey, right, with the Carolina Hurricanes, a guy who broke into the league late and then ended up winning a Stanley Cup. So I like the move. I like the investment, and then it's worthy to see if it could pan out where he could be the guy eventually for them.
The Devils signed Mammoth forward Barrett Hayton to a 1-year, $4.78 million offer, and you're already laughing. Go ahead.
Well, so first of all, I'm a Devils fan, so it's cheeky for me to see them do an offer sheet, because I mean they've got a new general manager and he's being aggressive and I dig it. And I also enjoy the fact that it seems kind of spiteful. From everything I've read, the Devils and Mammoth had a deal in place around the draft. It didn't come to fruition, and then the Devils tender this offer sheet, which if the Mammoth match it, means they've got to keep Hayden on the roster for a full year because they can't trade him, and which walks him right up to unrestricted free agency. But Steve Weir, who is a former front office guy, I don't know if you guys saw this morning. He said, surely a coincidence the offer sheet from the Devils would cost more than a second-round pick if it was just a little higher than $4.775 million. How much higher, you ask? $666. So the Devils GM worked a 666 Easter egg into the offer sheet that he gave Hayden, and I got to respect it. I mean, it's pretty great.
I think that teams get in a position where they tend to be a little safe. They got a decent thing going on. And I wonder, if you want to take that next step or two, you've got to be bold. So in these flurry of deals, would you describe what Bill Armstrong has done as bold?
No, I wouldn't describe it as bold. I would describe it as smart asset management. The Anders Lee coming in 5.4. That's an aggressive average annual value, and maybe a year longer than you want to go for a guy who's 35. But it's not super aggressive. I mean, it's just a smart addition of a guy that can play in front of the net and bring some leadership. And in the case of Trocheck, I mean, we all know what they have on the blue line already with the players that are there. They can afford to give up Jersey. We know what's coming in the pipeline behind him. So you're dealing from a position of strength there. And then obviously, like I said, the prospect they give up is one who maybe is in their top 10, but not necessarily like someone they're counting on to really be a frontline player for them. So it's not as if he pushed his chips in with any of the blue chip guys that they have in the organization to really take a swing for a superstar center or anything like that. I think it's smart moves for a GM who knows that he's holding a lot of cards right now that are going to, he can play or hold on to, and they're going to be good NHL players, but also knows that his team deserves to be rewarded for having made the playoffs last year with a little bit of veteran help. And that's exactly what I think Trocheck and Anders Lee bring.
So what's he going to do with Barrett Hayton? Is he going to match? Is he going to let him walk? What's the smart play there?
I mean, typically the smart play is probably to let him walk, if we're being honest, because as valuable as he can be to this lineup, the idea that you can't move him if you need to is sort of frustrating, and having him get walked right up to unrestricted free agency. But, typically when we see offer sheets in this league, and we haven't seen a lot of them, the reaction is usually the team matches. And I think the expectation is that the team's going to match, only because you don't want teams to start trying to raid your cupboard if they think that they can. But this was fun. This is aggressive. This is exactly what we thought we'd see in this offseason in the NHL, because as everybody watched yesterday, the free agent frenzy did not feature a lot of guys that really move the needle or players of a certain age that you'd want on your roster. The only way to acquire those players is by trade or by offer sheet. And so maybe there's a little bit of spite behind this one, as we've mentioned before with the Devils, but it's the kind of aggressive move that I think this won't be the last offer sheet we see in the offseason.
I don't think there's any maybe. I mean, when you put a 666 Easter egg in there, I mean, that just seems like spite. That seems like which finger. I mean, I don't know what the backstory is with those two, but right now I'm assuming there is one.
Here's the backstory. Sonny Maeda, the Devils GM, he used to be a poker pro, and also he's from Jersey. So this is just him speaking his native tongue, this spitefulness that he's delivering to Bill Armstrong.
Why the spite,
Okay, Greg.
Though? Why the spite?
Why the spite? Oh, it's the Jersey attitude. That's all it is. All right. Yeah, exactly.
All right, Greg. I'm from New Jersey. My mother, full-blood Italian, born and raised in West Orange. And you spoke of that big Italian dinner in Pittsburgh. In order for it to be successful, I think the most important thing you need to have is the quality of the meatball. If the meatball tastes like my mother's meatballs, then I'm okay with the rest. But in order for it to grade out as an A+, don't you agree the quality of the meatball is where it's at?
My mom makes killer meatballs too. Now she's Irish, so that can only go so far.
Okay, my father's Irish, so I'm okay there.
Yeah, so there you go. So she loads them up with enough garlic where sometimes it's painful afterwards after you eat them, which I think is exactly how it should be. For me, and I noticed this last night as I was giving my kids some pasta for dinner, I realized that the quality of cheese is very important. The only cheese I had in the house was like that prepackaged, one that you get from the grocery store. It's not like freshly cut. And I put it on her pasta and I tasted it. I'm like, I'm sorry. Like, I just gave you shredded cardboard, basically. I felt really bad. But I mean, I think the quality of cheese is also an underrated aspect of the family meal.
Well, now I'm getting hungry. Greg, we appreciate the time as always. Thanks for coming on the show again. The Mammoth keep making moves, and we need you to keep coming on and telling us all about them. We appreciate it. Thanks.
Sure thing. Anytime. Thanks.
Greg Wyshynski, you can read him at ESPN.com, senior NHL writer. DJ and PK, Ben Anderson, Jazz insider for KSL Sports, will join us at the top of the hour. Walker Kessler to the Lakers. Where do the Jazz go from here? Where do the Lakers go from here? We'll talk with Ben about that coming up. Stay with us.
Welcome to
This is Jay Scott and Ben Anderson.
The Jazz are worse today than they were yesterday. The Jazz are not better without Walker Kessler. The Jazz made a trade for Jaren Jackson Jr. to ideally compete for the playoffs this season. That is less likely than it would have been had they had Walker.
So the Jazz are a little worse on paper as a roster. Check. But did they overpay the wrong guy?
No.
No, they did not.
Which we have learned today is maybe the single worst thing you can do in the NBA.
By overpaying the wrong guy. And they did not. Now, the Jazz probably, I'm guessing, offered what they were comfortable offering, or probably pretty close in the 28-29. And honestly, probably didn't want to go much higher.
We would rather lose Walker at that number with 2 draft picks and swaps versus have Walker at $39 million.
Catch Jake and Ben afternoons from 2 to 6 on 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
DJ and PK, it's 97.5 KSL Sports Zone. PK, isn't it crazy having a second team in town? I mean, you worked in L.A., and you were in a newsroom in L.A., so you had multiple people covering multiple teams, and stuff would happen, and it's L.A. They basically have 2 of everything. But it was weird following the Jazz and the Mammoth. Like, every time you look at your phone, it seemed like something's happened. The draft week was crazy with what was happening with both teams. Yesterday was crazy with what was happening with both teams. And to think that we could have a baseball team here in another 5 years, and I did hear about that yesterday. Like, the assumption is it's going to happen, and the assumption is also is the cost is about to go way up. No matter what the price tag is, the price tag of everything's going way up, and put it 4 or 5 years down the line. But nonetheless, it'll happen. And it's just so many things happening all at once. It's a completely different pace.
Yeah, but it's never overwhelming. It's what you want. It's a good thing. It's a great thing for the community. When I worked at the Daily Breeze, we were suburban LA. It was a coastal paper in the South Bay from Santa Monica down to Long Beach, and then divided basically by the 405 west of that. And there was a large chunk of people. And we had this big, huge whiteboard. And in those days, nobody had cell phones, right? And so you'd check into a hotel and you would call in and let the people know what the number was, right? People on the desk. And at one point, with all the stuff that we had available to cover, there was like 10 names on that list with the phone numbers. And it just made everything so exciting to be a part of it. And I think as this town grows up from a sports standpoint, it does make it exciting. And having I think that one of the big things that I've seen in advancement is the Utah football program, and having it be as good as it is. That's just added to the excitement in the community. And now both of these teams being expected to have really good 26 seasons, it just adds to the anticipation. That's what I say for myself here. As far as future development, I really don't want the Sun Devils to go anywhere that the Cats aren't coming along, because that was part of the fabric, and that's what I want. And so here to have these 2 teams and making moves here within days of each other in the draft, literally the same week, just adds to the level of excitement. And even if you're a casual, you still pay attention to a degree as far as, well, what's going on, because you're a sports fan. So, hey, let's check out, see what are this Mammoth? What is this, man? What are they about? What are they doing here? And then last year when in the playoff, even if you didn't care at all, you still were aware of it. My wife is in a golf tournament with her friend yesterday, and she comes home. I'm home already, and I just throw something out. I threw it out. Like, she probably wouldn't care, but I just wanted to throw it out because we got in the car and we were going for a decent drive. And I said, "Oh man, did you hear that the Jazz traded Kessler to the Lakers?" She said, "Yeah, that's all my partners were talking about on the golf course." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." The one gal was just breaking it down like crazy. Yeah. And the others picked up on it. Oh yeah. Now, obviously, those sports-oriented women, because they're playing in a golf tournament, right? And so they're talking about it. Yeah. And I think it's great for the community. And then if MLB comes, it'll even be better.
We got a lot of reaction to this. We'll get into it in our next segment with Ben Anderson. I think Chad speaks for a lot of people. Kessler is greater than Hayes and Nurkic combined. I was really, all caps, really looking forward to watching our young team compete and seeing how all the players fit in. While I think the Lakers overpaid for Kessler, and I'm happy we got some picks and swaps for him, I'm still bummed I don't get to see that team compete together. And Bo is like, yeah, it would have been nice to keep him at the lower price. But that was impossible. Kessler probably is better than Hayes and Nurkic combined. That's why he's getting paid more money than those two combined. But the price point really matters. The price point really matters. But I get Chad's disappointment. He was all bought in on the previous group, and now he's got to adjust.
I'm disappointed too, but everything across the world is it worth the cost? You go to buy a house, right? Okay. This house A is nicer than house B, but can I afford house A? That doesn't mean I can't be happy in house B. I very well could and probably will be, because you get one shot at life and might as well try to make it as happy as you can. So they weighed all those things, and this is what they come up with. And I don't think it's a devastating blow, though. That's the thing. My optimism has changed a little bit, but I don't know that it's necessarily dropped, because they have so much talent available with the guys who are there. The nucleus of the guys include Peterson in there. And so it still, to me, makes it a fascinating, intriguing storyline that we're going to have from October to April and hopefully into May.
All that changed is the timeline. The number one thing, I think, having been here for the Gordon Hayward walking away and they get nothing, is don't let that happen. You knew with the money, and I was ready to, bite the bullet, pay the money. Now, sooner or later, that's going to be a problem. And I knew it was going to be a problem in 2 years. And then when I saw the money, I thought, well, that could be a problem in 1 year. And the only thing I left out in this equation was, rather than it's going to be a problem sooner or later, and they'll have to deal with it sooner or later, the Jazz opted for, no, let's deal with it soonest. Why deal with it in a year or two when we'll more likely be in a position of weakness because everybody will know what we have to do? Let's do it while the Lakers are in a position of weakness because the new GM needs to impress the new owner. We know it's going to be a problem eventually. This is a pretty good offer right now. Let's just do it right now. They were always going to have to send talent away because they couldn't pay everybody. Because they've drafted well and they've traded well, and that's what they're going to have to do. They're not going to be able to afford everybody. So they just decided to do it rather than sooner or later. They decided to do it soonest. So, and that is a little disappointing, Chad, and I get it. Hey, that was really intriguing that the team was going to be really big and really athletic, and now it's not quite as big and it's not quite as athletic. But that doesn't mean it still can't beat people with its size and athleticism and a ton of skill at the offensive end of the floor. It's going to look a little different. We're not going to get to see what we expected, but they decided to deal with it soonest because it looked like they had the Lakers over the barrel a little bit. And in a year or two, somebody else might have had them over the barrel.
Yeah, but if they're over the barrel, Oklahoma City was over the barrel, and they've had to they've jettisoned some guys, and Lou Dort looks like he's on his way, but they got a title out of it, and that can't be replaced. And I probably wouldn't say, oh man, the Lakers or the Jazz are going to win a title in the next 2 years. I understand that, but until Oklahoma City became what they were we going to say that? So who knows? Yeah. So we never saw it play out, so we can't evaluate it. in that way, and we'll never be able to evaluate it because it never played out.
There's this part of the equation now with championship teams. You got to go right up to that financial edge to build the championship team. And as soon as you do, the teams that are desperate for one reason or another are willing to overpay your guys, and you can't keep them all. Now, maybe you jettison smaller role players, bigger role players, stars, but we've seen Denver let go of payroll. We're seeing the Knicks let go of payroll. We're seeing Oklahoma City let go of payroll. Well, they've all had a parade. But the rest of the league that isn't as good is willing to overpay a little to get better because they're all looking over their shoulder at their jobs. It's just the way it goes.
I'm not willing to say right now that the Lakers overpaid Kessler.
It might work out.
They overpaid
it
him.
might. You're right. It might. I think the odds are they overpaid. But to your point, if you're betting on a young player, you're hoping for more growth, and then it all works out. And the truth is the next couple of years are a squeeze, but I've already seen estimations on where the salary cap is going. The squeeze for the Lakers will be in the short run, like it would have been for the Jazz. You get 3-4 years out, that deal might be livable because the cap is going to keep going up because the TV money's locked in.
The Lakers overpaid by $4 million. Is that really overpaying?
Time will tell. I mean, it's in relation to the rest of your roster.
Not if he's that good.
Right. If he improves, you're right. All right, DJ and PK, we'll talk all about this with Ben next. Stay with us.